Talktainment Radio Worldwide Sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, and welcome to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. We welcome you and thank you for listening. Thank you for all of your calls and shows of support. We really appreciate that. I'm emanating live from Columbus, Ohio, which is approximately 11 hours away from Japan, Konnichiwa, for those who are in there. In fact, in Japan is now 30 minutes after 11 p.m. They are ahead of us, so how about that? Getting ready to go into Thursday morning over there as we are starting out our day here. I mention that because maybe one day I might have an opportunity to go to the land of the rising sun. I've been studying a little bit about that. But anyway, be that as it may. On the line, we have Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, which is white supremacy. And we will be delving into that subject and much more. Your questions, which I do have a couple that I came in from the Gmail. But if you would like to get in contact with the show, you may by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. And whatever it is, we will have Mr. Fuller attempt to address your concerns or your questions, and we'll do that. But as always and as usual, this is how we start the program out by saying, good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning, and I'm still learning.
Yes, sirree, still learning. Very good. Before we get started with today's program, did you have a concern or something you saw in the news or something that was pressing against you that you would like to start this dissertation off with?
Well, nothing in particular, but things in general which I want to address, and that is we need to seriously look at what we call black culture. It's something not mentioned, in everyday language and whatnot, but we mention it every now and then, and particularly when we have gatherings of a sort. Every now and then that term comes up. So the term really needs to be defined and going beyond just fashions and talking about ancient history and the pyramids and all like that. Culture is what you do at the moment that you're doing it. And if you're going to have a black culture, if it's called black culture, what should it be? What should it be? And that's because if culture is what you do at the time that you're doing it, what should we be doing if we are black people on the planet, given the systems that we have been presented as being a part of? And everything, when you look around the world now, according to the news, you open any newspaper, there is a dearth of ideas for correcting things that need correcting. So since black people are sort of at the epicenter of all of the things that need correcting, because in every area of activity we're woefully deficient in a constructive manner. And just take the areas of activity which I outline in the book, the textbook for victims of white supremacy: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Nothing seems to be working the way it ought to work in any of these areas of activity with constructive results. That's the criteria. Constructive results. Constructive results in economics. What is the economic situation for the people who are classified as black throughout this entire planet right this minute? I mean, you hear people saying that, hey, something's got to be done. It's not anywhere near what it ought to be. Then you move to the second E in alphabetical order, the 9 areas of activity. Education. Look at it. We've been talking about just the schools in the Northwestern Hemisphere for about over a half century now. And we're talking about what a shambles it is. I mean, it's not productive. It's not producing people who can know how to do things that are worthwhile and who can come right out, I mean, with their papers in hand saying, I can do anything that is necessary to get things done in the most constructive manner. I don't care what circumstance you put me in.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the criteria for coming out of any school. When you say you have finished, quote unquote, finished school, you should be able to walk out on the steps of that school, if it's a school building,
mm-hmm.
with a piece of paper in your hand that says, now this piece of paper I have in my hand certifies me as being able to handle every possible situation in the most constructive manner that you can possibly conceive of, and handle it in the most efficient manner that will have a constructive result for myself and for anybody who is associated with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any piece of paper could say that and be telling the truth.
Why?
For the average person. So that should be the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you haven't finished school. You haven't even started. I guess that's why they call it commencement in many, many schools. Hey, we're starting out.
Yes, starting on the journey.
We haven't even gotten started. We're just starting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That would be one way to look at it, because that's really the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done anything up to now. Now is the time to start doing something, but do what? When? Where? Whom do I contact to start doing whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing? Are these questions answered? Well, they should be answered before you get that paper in your hand. Exactly where you're going and what you're going to be doing right from day one, rather than a great big question mark, because that's usually what we're stuck with. And then you take the other 9 areas of activity, entertainment. Now, black people say that we're great entertainers and all like that, but it comes down to, does it have a constructive result? When we put whatever we put out here to quote-unquote entertain,
mm-hmm.
whatever it is, does it have a constructive result? And I was thinking of 2 words this morning, and that is constructive, 3 words, constructive problem solving. Constructive problem solving. That should be the essence, the epicenter of what I say is black culture. If it's not about constructive problem solving, it's not black culture. We need to really stop just throwing words around and be very precise and be able to measure everything that we say
mm-hmm.
as far as results are concerned, rather than just say, well, black culture, we have music and we have the pyramids and we have kente cloth, I mean, and then that's about it. What are we talking about? I mean, we're not making sense at all. So people all over the world, when they hear the term black culture, they should think about, oh, you're talking about people who are all about constructive problem solving. They're problem solvers. They're not problem makers. They're problem solvers. You give them problems to solve, I mean, they go right to it. That's how they're oriented. That's how they think. That's the mode that they're always in. Pick any area of activity, and if there's a problem in that area, I mean, when you see a black person walk up, you're looking at somebody who is not about problem making or not about just witnessing a problem. They are about solving a problem. That's just the way they think. That's the way those people are. That's what should be said about us in 2015, right this minute, worldwide.
Okay. All righty. And what were those other two? You mentioned that. What was the other two that you were thinking about?
No, just that.
Okay.
Just that. I just wanted to talk about black culture.
Okay.
And what it should be. I mean, if we're going to use that term, put some substance in it.
Okay.
Other than just walking around, I mean, saying, you know, my father built the pyramids some time ago, and you know, Timbuktu was a great place where there were some great black people who were great mathematicians and whatnot.
Okay.
And then haul out some kente cloth, and then, hey, that's it. I mean, you know, play a little banjo and whatnot, and that's black culture.
That's black culture. That's what they say. All right. I have a question from Rodney. Let's see if I can read this. Says, hello, Robert. Please let Mr. Fuller know that his response to my question was very helpful. I want to share a little bit about myself. I'm a 38-year-old brown male who has gotten trapped in this system with 2 drug charges. I did not serve prison time, but jail time. I abided by the law and paid my restitution fees and served 18 months probation. I have since enrolled in college at a HBCU here in Durham, North Carolina, where I reside today. My major is social work. I label myself a problem solver, thanks to Mr. Fuller's sharing knowledge on white supremacy. I continue to be the best person that God has made me to be and utilize the tools to help solve the issues that have plagued non-whites for so long. I will leave with this famous quote, I'm still learning. The system, and of course he has another question, but it seems like most African American males, or some, get trapped in that system. He said he was on probation, or served probation for 2 drug charges. What do you feel, about that, or is that just common in this system of racism, white supremacy, to imprison non-white people like that?
Well, after World War II, the white supremacists, so-called World War II, the white supremacists took a look around and they say, we're going to have a major problem with these dark-skinned people throughout the entire world. Mm-hmm. So now, how are we going to keep them busy doing something that's going to take them in a big circle going nowhere? Mm-hmm. So drugs was one of them.
Okay.
And they practically said that in a movie. Sometimes you can pick up stuff from movies because movies are like the old movies about going to the moon and whatnot. Mm-hmm. People said that was impossible. I used to look at old Flash Gordon movies and Buck Rogers movies. These characters, comic book characters that most people don't know about nowadays. That goes way back.
Yes, sir.
Yes, but they were talking about going to the moon and going to Mars and all like that. Finally, somebody did. So these were just movies and comic books that said that these are prospects for the future. So it's the same way with The Godfather 1, where one of the characters in the movie, standing at a table, said that, you know what, we're going into the drug trade because prostitution and gambling and whatnot is kind of falling by the wayside. It's not bringing in enough money for the mobs. So what should we do? Say, well, we got something called drugs, and maybe we can get that going, say. Mm-hmm. But one of the characters, Don Corleone, named in the movie, said, yes, but, if we get into that type of thing, it might affect our own people. We don't want to do anything that's going to affect our own people in an adverse manner. We just want to, dump garbage off on other people. And they said, oh, yeah, well, sure, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to restrict it as best we can to the dark people, the coloreds.
Okay, so black people were targeted, or non,
yes.
okay.
Mm-hmm. And his words were, They are animals anyway. Let them lose their souls.
Okay.
So to go back and address what the gentleman just said and whatnot, he said he had a drug charge and all like that. He didn't invent drugs. That was what was told that he should get into as a method of employment. By the early 1970s and certainly by the mid-1980s, I mean, that was real. That movie came out,
yes, sir,
Godfather 1, in 1972. But by 1984, that was black employment.
That was black employment.
Black employment was drugs.
You're listening.
The white supremacists had that set up so that at that level of the drug trade, every black male or black female that got involved in it was headed for disaster.
Okay.
They already knew that.
You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You can be heard. So what is your question?
Greetings. This is Brother Warren from New Orleans. And I would like Mr. Fuller to address the fourth stage of racism, the refinement. And I'd like him to address it as it relates to these two trends. One trend that we've seen is whites who practice mistreating and dominating black people are abhorred by the word being called a racist. They just hate the word racist, even while they do things that can be judged as mistreatment and domination of black people. That's the first trend I've been noticing. Even Ku Klux Klan members don't want to be called racist.
Okay, let Mr. Fuller address that. Mr. Fuller?
If I got the question correct, he says that racists don't want to be called racist?
Yes.
Yes, well, that's true. I mean, because, being a racist means you're going to mistreat people based on color. And how can you justify that? So they'll just say, well, those people, I mean, they're not the way that they ought to be and whatnot, but they kind of ramble when they talk about it. Well, what do you mean, the way they ought to be? Are you the way that you ought to be? I mean, and what are you doing? And see, so there's plenty of questions that need to be answered by everybody, really, literally on the planet. I mean, what type of people should populate this planet? What should they be doing? What should it be that they're not doing, that they should be doing? Mm-hmm. And so that's what it comes down to. Now, I say in the textbook, you never call a person a racist unless that person identifies himself or herself as a racist.
Yes.
Why? Because there's no way to prove it. Okay? I mean, who are you going to prove it by? If I call a white person a racist, who am I going to prove it by? They say, okay, Fuller, you just called me a racist. Prove it. Where's your proof that I'm a racist? I'll say, well, you called me a name. I mean, that's derogatory. You called me the N-word, whatnot. So I have reason to believe that you're a racist. Oh, you have reason to believe that I'm a racist. Well, I say that I'm not. Now, what are you going to do now? Where are you going? Who are you going to prove it by? Anybody who's tried it now, you go into court, you're going to have to prove that somebody is a racist. Otherwise, if you don't go into court, how are you going to prove that somebody is a racist? And when you get to court and you say, I charge this person with racism, and the judge is going to say, okay, where's your evidence? Say, well, the person called me the N-word. Say, well, the person's defense lawyer might say, well, you black people call each other the N-word. Now you're going to discriminate against me because I'm white when I use it? Come on. I mean, what is this? Let's get with it now. I mean, get some focus here. Well, when you use it, it's derogatory. Oh, well, now you're discriminating against me. See what I mean? So now see, black people always have to know what we are doing. We don't understand the world that we are in. We don't understand how to deal with racism. We are perplexed by it. We've been plagued by it since day one, wherever that day one was.
Mm-hmm. But what if that person...
We really don't have an understanding.
But what if the person says you are a suspected racist? Then what?
Yes, then that'll work. That's why I have it in the word guide. That's what you say. You say, I suspect you of being a racist.
But then you would have to prove that, wouldn't you?
No, you don't. See,
why not?
That's a suspicion.
Suspicion?
No, you don't have to prove suspicion other than to say, a person will say, well, how am I a suspected racist? Say, because I suspect that you could be one. I suspect that you could be one.
Okay.
And they'll say, well, what gives you the right to suspect? I can suspect that you are racist because somebody has to be a racist in a racist system. Mm-hmm. And I suspect you could be one.
Okay, but then
and
someone...
That's as far as I need to go, because that's just a suspicion. I say, I'm not proving that you won.
So you don't have to prove a suspicion in a court of law?
No, you don't have to prove a suspicion.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know that.
No, I mean, you can suspect that a person is a thief, but that's just a suspicion. Somebody has to investigate to find out whether or not a person is a thief.
Okay. Somebody's going to have to investigate that your suspicion.
Yes.
Okay, now I get that. Okay.
Yes. See, in other words, I can suspect anybody of being anything, because that's my prerogative.
Yes.
Anybody can suspect anybody of being anything. I can walk down the street and suspect that a person, just broke out of jail.
But as long as there is an investigation on your suspicion, then we can work with that.
You can work with that.
Okay, I get it.
I mean?
Okay.
And so that means you got a set of criteria for what is it that a racist does.
Now that is constructive. Now I can feel that one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
See, that's why I say you never call anybody a racist under any circumstance unless that person says, I'm a racist.
Okay.
You can call me a racist because that's what I am. Then you can call a person a racist because you can always say, hey, the person said that they were.
Okay.
All right. But now, any white person who is able to be a racist, and we are in a racist system, can be suspected of being a racist.
Okay.
That's the way that works according to the code.
According to the code. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTameRadio.com. If you'd like to get in with the conversation, you may by dialing 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Okay, brother from New Orleans, what was your second question?
Well, what I was trying to get more clarity, explanation, was the concept of refined racism. For example, things that whites who were racist or who practiced racism said 60 years ago, we want segregation, we don't want blacks here. You're still hearing elements of the same sentiment, but when people react to what they say, I'm not a racist. And we see this over and over again, whereby if it was 60 years ago or more, they would not, coil at being called a racist. What I'm saying is this part of the refinement process to take the acknowledgement of being a racist as they had been to saying, no, I'm not, but still do the same thing.
Refinement. Mr. Fuller?
Well, one way to shortcut the conversation, and that's what codification is supposed to be designed to do, counter-racist science, which is what I mean by codification, is that what you ask, what is racism supposed to do? It's supposed to mistreat someone. See, racism is about mistreatment. Otherwise, there's no point in being against racism unless it's about mistreatment. So you go straight to the jugular, and that is, what did the person do? What did the person say? Because everything is a matter of doing and saying, or not doing and saying. So you look at what the person is doing or saying, or not doing and saying, wait a minute, does this constitute mistreatment of me or someone else? That's the question.
Okay.
Is it mistreatment? Was this person mistreated? And if the person was mistreated how? And then you go into the details of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the thing of, now, what was this mistreatment based on? Why did you mistreat this particular person and you didn't mistreat that person standing next to him?
Yeah, like
you
they did in
single out a
McKinney,
person.
Texas.
First of all, nobody's supposed to be mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like you single out this person for mistreatment, and you just mistreat everybody else. So what is this all about? See, because all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Right.
See, that's why I say you stay away from making accusations.
Mm-hmm.
You just put whatever you have to say in the form of a question.
Okay.
Because the person who asked the question has the best advantage.
Okay. The brother from New Orleans, since Mr. Fuller addressed the mistreatment of people, up here we heard all about Katrina and what happened or what supposedly happened. You were there in New Orleans. We don't know for sure what happened, but first of all, did the storm really go east of New Orleans, or did suspected people blow up a sewer so that it could appear that the Katrina misplaced a lot of people, and then how did that affect the mistreatment of African American or black people, as certain people were supposedly to gain control of New Orleans?
Well, I have to use a codified response.
Okay, that's fine.
I was not. I was one that evacuated.
Okay.
Now, many people, based off past instances of hurricanes, levees were blown. Okay, there was a 1965 hurricane,
right,
and there was a 1927 flooding, and it's a known fact that the business establishment blew the levees. However, the thing that damaged New Orleans was the failing of the levees. Now, whether they were blown up or whether they gave in because of not keeping up over time, that flooding destroyed large parts of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was a lot of mistreatment by law enforcement. There was a lot of random shootings and killings by police of black people. Many of those cases had gone to trial. There was a lot of talk, and even published, of land grabs, trying to prevent people not to return to their areas and rebuild their homes.
Okay.
It's even said that the former mayor is serving time because he betrayed
that would be
C.
Ray Nagin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there definitely was mistreatment, and so on and so forth.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, from the information that you've gathered from not just what this brother said, but from all the news and the mistreatment of non-black people in New Orleans, what do you think of that situation as you see it?
Well, the white supremacists always make every situation worse for non-white people than they do for white people. I don't care what the situation is. That's what they're committed to do. That's what white supremacy means. It's all comparison. It's all by comparison. I mean, they look around in any situation, no matter what the situation is, and they measure everything by, are the black people worse off than the white people? That's their criteria for everything.
Do you think it was a land grab or using Katrina to take over a situation where blacks were at?
Well, they have all kind of ways of doing that.
Okay.
I mean, foreclosure, you name it. I mean, but sometimes, they can just simply say that, we had a climate change or whatnot.
Okay.
And they will locate black people where they know that the water's going to rise. And they might even do that when you have what you call a levee breaking or something like that. They'll say, now, what if this levee breaks? Who is going to be displaced?
Right. So we can suspect that
always suspect
that this could possibly happen. That's why I wanted to ask
your mind should always go in that direction.
That's why I wanted to ask your brother from New Orleans what happened there. Okay, thank you, my brother from New Orleans, very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Okay, TalkTainmentradio.com. You can check us out on WCRS FM 98.3 Wednesdays and Sunday evenings, and blogs and podcasts are available. You can download the TalkTainmentradio.com app to your cell phone or tablet. We go where you go, radio the way it should be heard. We have more of your questions from the Gmail, and then we're going to ask Mr. Fuller about that incident that happened in McKinney, Texas. That and much more coming up next on TalkTainmentradio.com. Radio the way it should be heard.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is the premier internet radio platform offering 40-plus talk radio-style programs professionally produced, optimized for online distribution, featuring Columbus, Ohio on-air personalities. TalkTainmentRadio.com offers listeners diverse programming options covering topics such as arts and culture, love, life and relationships, technology, religion, paranormal activities, local and national politics, women's issues, alongside health and wellness. Listeners can access their favorite TalkTainmentRadio.com programs free of cost through the website. Download the TTR app to your cell phone and you can take us wherever you go. We have programs on demand to fit your schedule through our podcast. The address is TalkTainmentRadio.com.
LaGlory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. They've got everything you need. The famous LaGlory burger, chicken and waffles, shrimp and grits, walleye, perch and whiting, and fish dinners, all Southern style food.
Oh boy, what good eating!
LaGlory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. Be sure to tell them that All in Our Family sent you, and you will receive a extra side dish with each meal. LaGlory Soul Food Cafe, a taste of Southern classic, located at 3350 Allegheny Avenue, Columbus, Ohio. For carry-out, call 614-237-5844. Get the menu at LaGlory'sCafe.com. Open 7 days a week.
For the best eating in town.
Goodwill is a global social services enterprise and the leading nonprofit provider of job training programs and career services in the United States and Canada. To pay for its program, Goodwill sells donated clothes and other household items in more than 2,700 stores and online at shopgoodwill.com. Goodwill uses the revenue earned from these sales to fund job training, employment placement services, and other community programs. The goal of the campaign is to increase goods donations to Goodwill, inspire an emotional connection to the Goodwill brand, and to elevate preference for Goodwill.
We can give you a new heart.
We can help you walk again.
We can perform brain surgery.
We can treat a sore throat.
We can bring life into the world.
We can work so many miracles. But the one thing we cannot do is read your mind.
When you communicate with your doctor,
when you ask us more questions,
you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake.
Tens of thousands of lives are lost every year due to medical mistakes.
The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help.
Please, open up. Ask more questions.
What are the side effects?
When should I expect my test results?
Will this medication interact with my other prescriptions?
We can't answer if you don't ask.
Help reduce your risk.
Questions are the answer.
Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. I encourage you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks, the Ad Council, and TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
All righty, welcome back to the second slice of the action on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. TalkTeam@radio.com, the world's greatest radio. That's radio the way it should be heard. Again, you're listening to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I'm the co-host, Mr. Bobby. We've been talking about black culture and other topics that seem to come up. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Before we get into the McKinney, Texas incident, Rodney had a question. He mentioned that on a previous show, the media showed him the mother slap her child to keep him from participating in the riots. I guess he's referring to Baltimore, as we discussed that. He said from two perspectives, she was right for not wanting her child involved in the protest, but I feel it was harmful in portraying her child as an abuser. You care to address that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, black people, I'm not a dictator or anything. I just make suggestions. I would suggest that it's best to talk to people, other victims of white supremacy, rather than to fight them. If we're going to go on the road of fighting, we already do a lot of that. I mean, the death rate among black people is astounding. If it wasn't so common, it would be astounding. But we don't pay any attention to it. And from fighting comes killing. And we're going to teach lessons by doing that, by fighting. And then fighting leads to killing. I mean, that's right, the next door neighbor. Once you start a fight, somebody might die as a result of the fight. Mm-hmm. So if we teach people, I mean, in a school, and the whole world is a school, so whether it's in what you call a school building, out on the street, and you're going to demonstrate a lesson to someone, are you going to do that by physical abuse of some type? Is that how you're going to teach a lesson? No. The counter-racist code, counter-racist science says you get a person to understand what they're dealing with, and you do that by talking to them. Understanding comes from talking and observing and making a study of. I mean, not by hitting someone or shoving somebody around. I mean, that's not the best way. That you can do that. That is one way, but you may not get the most constructive result out of that type of action. I wouldn't recommend that at all.
Okay.
I would recommend that you teach the person. You say, now, first of all, start with the question. All problems are solved through questions and answers. What is it that you are doing? And should you be doing it? And if you are doing it, and you should be doing it, is it producing a constructive result?
Okay.
See, that would be the way to handle anything when you come up on the scene.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Let's see here. I have a question from Freedom Fighter. It says, I've heard before that hope is the only thing stronger than fear, that a little hope is effective, but a lot of hope is dangerous. In my opinion, because of our tremendous fear of white people who practice racism, white supremacy, it's one of the reasons that stop us from becoming more codified and united to overcome this oppressive system. What would Mr. Fuller suggest to instill hope in non-white people to continue to fight for justice?
Okay, hope should be backed up by what? When you say hope, it's sort of like a wish. So when you wish for something, or you hope for something, when you hope for something to happen, or you wish for something to happen, you should back it up with what? Back it up with knowledge and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
See, that should be the next thing on the agenda, because you're talking about basically a want. See, when you hope for something, you want something. So when you want something, what's the next thing to do? You're going to do something now. What is that next thing? You're going to figure out how to go about doing what it is that you have to do to get what you want. And so that means just study the process for getting what it is that you want. After first ascertaining whether or not what you want is something that you should want.
Okay.
See what I mean? You just don't want to hope in abstract. Just hope, hope, hope. You just hope that something happens, because anything might happen if you just have what you call abstract hope.
So that hope would cause you to think about something that would be productive to get the results that constructive, rather, that would get you the results that you need or want.
I have two words: codify everything. In other words, there is a set way of going about doing everything in the best manner. So that means getting to those questions again.
Yes.
What is the best way to go about handling any situation that you happen to be in?
Okay.
And that's going to be something that you say and do, or
All
something
right.
that you don't say and do. It always comes down to that.
Okay.
What do you do? What's the best thing to do? It might be a dozen things that you can do. You want to look at all of that dozen things that you can do and come up with the best thing out of the dozen. That's the procedure. That's the codified procedure. It works for anybody, anywhere on the planet, any time of day or night. I don't care what the circumstance is.
And those things that you think about would have to lead to being constructive.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
There's a best way and a worse way to do everything.
Yes, sir.
We
Okay.
have to, but it calls for thought. That's why the subtitle, the attendant title for the textbook is thought, speech, then action.
Yeah, that's what it says.
In
For
that
thought,
sequence.
speech, and or action for victims
Yeah, you
of racism.
think first.
Right. Okay. He goes on to say this, or the person goes on to say this: with all the failed efforts that have been made by non-white people to produce justice on this planet, what evidence, if any, do you have that the system of racism, white supremacy, can be replaced with justice?
Oh, I don't have any evidence, because no real serious effort has been made. We've given lip service to justice, and without even a definition. Don't even have a definition for it. That's why I had to come up with a compensatory definition, meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now, you can apply that to every situation that you're in, and I think it will work.
Okay.
It will work because that's something you can measure. Just an abstraction like, well, it means treating people right. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean by treating people right? You got to do something. I mean, by doing what? It always comes down to do what? You're going to do something. You have to do something to make justice come alive.
Yes, sir.
To make it exist.
Yes, sir.
And so what you do is walk in on a situation and say, wait a minute. Is anybody I'm going to put a form of a question out here, because all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers.
That is the protocol.
Yes, that's the codified procedure. Is anybody here being mistreated? And if someone is being mistreated, how?
Okay, which would mean an investigation on how that person was mistreated.
On it. See, very just systematically investigate to see if anybody's being mistreated, and if somebody's being mistreated, what person is being mistreated, and how is this person being mistreated? Just ask these questions, because the answers are going to jump out at you in a very short period. I mean, that's just the nature of a question.
Right.
Whenever you raise a question, the answer starts gravitating toward where that question is coming from.
I remember something about, I think it was in English class, who, what, when, how, and where.
Yes. By raising these questions, you're getting right to the answers, because the answers will gravitate toward the questions.
But what if the person that you're speaking with doesn't want to answer your question or concerns? What do we do then?
That's an answer.
Okay.
See what I mean? But see, because then you go into observation. See what I mean? And even a toddler can, after a while, can kind of perceive when there's some mistreatment going on here.
Yes, sir.
A toddler, I mean a small baby sometimes, can perceive that, wait a minute, something, you took my rattler. I mean, you gave it to me and then you took it. I mean, why did you give it to me and then take it? See what I mean? They begin to perceive that. And the baby doesn't know how to articulate, most likely, depending on the age of the baby or the level of intelligence that's been produced. And the baby will cry out. I mean, that is a form of saying, wait a minute, I'm being mistreated. Now, why are you doing this? See, the baby's asking that question. That crying out is a question.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. I believe you may have seen on the news the incident that happened down in, you're listening to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTeamRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. And if you'd like to call in, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at 7mrbobby@gmail.com. Before we get to McKinney, listen, you want to make sure that you get a copy of his book, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.'s book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. You need to get this book. There's an additional word guide that you can also purchase along with this book, and you can get it at producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com, and to my understanding, the book is now available. Am I correct on that, Mr. Fuller?
Okay. That's correct.
Okay, you can get that book right there. Go to producejustice.com, and you can get your copy, purchase your copy of the book and also the additional word guide if you'd want to. Mr. Fuller, there's been some videos. I don't know if you have seen them. There's been some shots of the action that took place at a pool party down in McKinney, Texas. The officer that was directly involved in the incident has now, first he was put on some leave and now he resigned, and his attorney had mentioned that he would have a statement, I guess, to address why he resigned. When you see that or when you heard of that, what are your thoughts on what you saw or heard on the incident that happened down in McKinney, Texas?
It appeared to be incorrect police procedures. Incorrect. Violation of law. That's what it appeared to be on the part of at least one person who is involved in law enforcement. Simple as that. Incorrect police procedures. That's the way that I would look at it if I was on the scene. Is this the correct police procedure for this occasion? Is it? Either it is or it isn't. No such thing as in between. Either it is or it isn't. What you are doing, sir, is this correct procedure under all circumstances like this? Is this how you're supposed to conduct yourself as a law enforcement officer?
Looking at that, could he, the person that has resigned, the police officer, could he be considered a suspected race soldier in that, according to the information that I heard, there were white people that were around that were also involved in the incident, and a couple of them said that he, being the suspected race soldier or police officer, went by them and went directly to the black people.
Absolutely. I would suspect him of being a race soldier. Yes, a racist male, a racist man. I would suspect him.
Yes, suspected,
based on the conduct, yes. Yes, I would say I have every reason to believe that you could be a racist, sir, by your conduct. You know, I can't call you that because I can't prove it.
But I can suspect
but I have
that
every
you
reason
are.
as a victim of racism, and that's my qualification. I have every reason to believe that you met that criteria, sir.
Okay, now, with that background in mind of suspected race soldiers and police departments across the United States and maybe around the world, but let's focus in on the United States. Do you see a pattern where they may be up under pressure because a lot of incidents that are coming out are exposing the mistreatment of non-white people everywhere across the United States?
Everywhere across the world. I like to think
okay.
Of, that's the way you have to think of racism.
Okay.
You're always speaking of.
Okay.
It's a world.
Global.
Yes. If it wasn't a global system, then it would just be little by little. It would just almost fall apart.
But this is a global system of people being mistreated all over.
This is why you have racists acting out with confidence, because they say, I have the whole world of power behind me. They would not be conducting themselves like that if they didn't think that they have most of the power in the entire world, saying amen to what I do.
So when they beat up Rodney King like that, and I think 3 of them were acquitted, and of course there was videotape of the tremendous beating that Rodney King took, and that 3 of them were committed, do you feel that it was suspected that they would be acquitted of that particular type of, I want to say, brutality to the men? Because from the videos I saw, he was down on his knees and did not make an attempt to escape, but they said that they feared for his life with a man down on his knees and his hands tied behind his back.
Well, the system of white supremacy, I mean, throughout its entire history is get a black person down on their knees and beat them. That's what the system of white supremacy is all about. Stomp on them. Keep their head down in the mud,
So
they are mud people.
They're mud people. So
yes, so put a mud person's muddy face down in the mud, because that's where they belong, under a white heel. This is standard procedure throughout the world, and everybody who is not familiar with it should be made familiar with it. This is the white supremacist ideology, 24/7. In all areas of activity.
Down on the ground, hands behind your back.
Yeah, and stomp them down in the face in the mud, face down, with a white heel on top of it, and that is what you call a world as it should be.
Wow.
According to the white supremacist doctrine.
Okay, Brother Roderick asked this question. He says, according to the code, is there such a thing as a stupid or dumb question?
No. All questions have answers. Even if the answer is I don't know, which is the answer to most questions for most people. Because everybody on the planet, regardless of how smart he or she may be, does not know near enough of what they should know. There's more things that, I think it's an old song, there are more questions than answers or something like that. There's always more questions than answers. That's why people should always be in a searching mode, searching for answers.
Okay.
Always.
From Tia, she asked, what are Mr. Fuller's thoughts on white people adapting black babies, and what are his thoughts on white teachers having inappropriate romantic relationships with black students? Does he feel these are an intentional mental games, or are these whites brainwashed themselves?
It strengthens the system that is already in place, and the system that's already in place is the system of white supremacy, the most powerful political and religious and educational system on the planet. So all of these activities, this makes the system of white supremacy stronger. Sexual intercourse between a black person and a white person makes the system of white supremacy stronger. Why? Because it's taken place under the system of white supremacy. If there were no white supremacy, it would just be even Steven, boy meets girl.
Okay. What about the adoption of black children to white people?
Oh, well, then that just brings a black person closer to the white person. And in a system of white supremacy, the black person is going to grow up more confused than he or she would be if he or she were not this quote unquote physically closer to the white person.
Okay.
I mean, the nurturing, so-called, that you have in the system of white supremacy. It wouldn't mean anything if there were no system of white supremacy. But in the system of white supremacy, when that white person goes into a nursery and says, I want that black child to come into my house, and I'm going to raise him or her, you're doing this, ma'am or sir, in a system of white supremacy. So all you're doing is making that person more of a victim, if there's any such thing as that, than that person ordinarily would be.
Okay.
Why? Because the person is now going to be more confused.
Confused, right. Let's go to the phone lines. Okay, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question? And you can be heard.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
And just on that, what he just said, remember when they had the movie about the black guy that went to play football with the Ravens? See, he grew up confused, but see, it also helped him financially because he helped them out and everything, kept from helping a black family out.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I wanted to say is that I'm 62 years old, I'm from Texas, and the thing about it, Mr. Fuller, is that I can call them racism, as far as I'm concerned, because even if I go to court and go up there and I'm up there with racist judges and a prosecutor or whatever, the thing about it is they going to tell me, well, these not racist because they racist themselves. But living through it, being in Texas, and like Brother W. Du Bois said, we have a duality throughout all our lives about how, one way we act, we have to get along with them and study them and know them and everything. But then our blackness is, trying to have us to not be close to that because they say, the Italians are proud of being Italian, the Polish are proud of being a Polish, but then when it comes to a black man, oh, you American. All these things like that are not conducive to us being who we are. And the thing about it is, I don't have to. I can prove racism because we don't have blacks, we don't have white skin privilege like white people do. We don't have the things that we have that they use against us. That it's obvious because, like you said, right after the World War II. Everything was for them to get ahead with the GI Bill and everything else, and we were denied a lot of things. So we can prove it's not that we got to go to court to prove that they racist. We can see by their actions and them taking advantage of the system of racism. And you were talking about just now about, the basic premise of white supremacy is that they want their white women to not be touched by black men. That's why a lot of deaths come because you don't want. That's the basic thing that they don't want because anytime a black and a white get together, the child gonna be considered black. So that's the main thing about it right there.
Okay, brother. Thank you. For your comments, Mr. Fuller. As we end this show. About your book, the name and how we can get the book and the information.
Textbook workbook for victims of white supremacy. That's the code title of the book. You can get it by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com.
And what else can you get with that if you want more? The other book,
Yes, there's an additional book called a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide.
Word guide, yes.
Yes, and that goes to, you can either get one book or the other or get them both at that site. Producejustice.com.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, callers. Mr. Fuller and myself, we do thank you, and we do welcome your calls and your comments. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll do better next week. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTeamRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.